Hey, everybody. I am Rebecca Giannini. I'm a parenting and relationship coach, and this is my group. If you have found this group, I'm so excited that you're here. You know, I it means that you care about your relationships. It means that you want to improve your relationships, and it means that your relationships matter deeply to you. Uh, in this group, we talk about so many different things, and we talk about breaking generational patterns. We talk about communication. We talk about healing our wounds. We talk about reparenting ourselves. We talk about boundaries. We talk about so many different things. But if you have found this group, it's because you want to do better than what was modeled for you, and that is such a beautiful thing. I can tell you, as somebody who has that same goal and has worked so hard to become the kind of parent I'm proud of, that it's difficult work, but it is wonderful work. It is beautiful work. And the fact that you're here, the fact that you're watching this video tells me so much about you. And if you've got some internal framework issues, which you'll also hear about in this group, even hearing me say that might spark a feeling of, well, you should have seen what I did earlier, or well, you wouldn't be saying that if you know such and such about me. But it's true. If you have found this group and if you have found this video, it means that there's a part of you, even if you don't always have access to that part, there's a part of you that cares deeply about doing better, about growing and changing and becoming a person that you can feel proud of. And that's what we do here in this group. And we do it slowly and methodically, and over time we get there. And so that's what this group is about. This group is about improving our relationships to self, to others, and to our kids, to our parents, to our siblings, to our partners, to our friends. So welcome. And I go live every single week. I do take topic requests, and I can't always respond to comments immediately, but I do respond to them. And I do have a couple of people who help me manage this group that will get back to your comments, and will make sure that you get a reply, whether it's from them or from me. There's so many free resources within this group, and if you have any questions, just put them in the comments and somebody will get back to you with either resources or with answers to your questions. All that being said, tonight's topic is about the different dialects of communication, and when we can think of communication as language, it gets easier to see it as something that we can grow at and get better at over time. But most of the time we don't think of communication as a language. We think about, and oftentimes we don't even think of our communication at all. Sometimes we're just going through life, navigating life in the way that we know how. And what that means is that we're going to be hurting people, we're going to be hurting ourselves, and we're going to be causing damage in relationships that we don't know how to fix. And so this group is about helping you figure out how to do that. I want to be very clear with you that I take my own advice. I have to do all of this same work that I am teaching you about. I'm only able to teach you about it because I've had to learn it myself. I'm still in the process of practicing it myself. And I'm truly on this journey with you. And so I will tell you personal antidotes. You'll hear about how I apply this in my own life, in the life of my kids, and in the lives of my clients. So it is my greatest joy to help families navigate these issues. And it truly is a language, right? We grew up with our own sort of native tongue. And then we interact with others who have a different native tongue, and it's sort of just like a different flavor of communication, a different dialect. And sometimes we are communicating with someone who is very different to us, and who has a very different way of communicating. And that's where some of that friction comes from. So here's sort of an illustration. I did a lot of traveling when I was younger, and one of the places that I love and have been to many times is Fiji. And the Fijian people are wonderful people, and I very much look back fondly on my time there. And we had somebody who gave us kind of a cultural, like a cultural lesson before we went. And one of the things that they mentioned is that this symbol here, which means, hey, everything's okay, or everything's a-okay, there is the equivalent to flipping someone off. So they mentioned, hey, don't use this symbol. Oh no, we've got a mosquito, which has been biting me all day. I'm sitting in this chair and it's been biting me. But so if you see me go after it, that's what I'm trying to save myself from more mosquito bites. But anyway, so the person who was kind of giving us the details of, some helpful things to get around better in the country told us, hey, I don't know if any of you use this symbol, but here it's the equivalent of flipping someone off. So please don't do that here. It doesn't mean the same thing. And this is sort of, a metaphor for what happens in our relationships. We might be unknowingly communicating, hey, everything's a-okay, but the message that's being received is screw you. And that happens in our relationships. It happens in communication when we really wish to be communicating something else, when our true intentions are beautiful, when our true intentions are to repair and to have meaningful connection, we can hurt people. And this often happens in couple relationships. This week I was actually, I think it was last week, I was coaching a couple, and I was watching this happen in real time. And the partner had said something that was really loving and really caring, and they were in a practice exercise using reflective listening. And so the male partner had said something really loving to the female partner, and she it just went straight over her head. She just missed it. She missed the signal, and I brought it back after they had kind of finished the exercise, and I asked her, what did you hear when he said such and such? And she reflected what she heard, and it was based on the surface level communication, that it was based on what he said. So she was paying attention to the words he used, and she was taking those literally, but she was missing the meaning underneath, which was a deeply caring and loving message. And when that happens over and over and over, what's going to happen is that these bids, what we call bids for connection, are being sent, but not necessarily received. And so for this partner, he had been sending messages of care throughout the conversation, and she was missing them. And so from his experience, that was a really obvious bid for connection. But from her experience, she was just reacting to what he had said on the surface. And so if you think about how that, now this was an older couple, and if you think about how that might happen over time, over and over and over, a missing bid for connection, and it not only it not being responded to, but it not being received at all, or even more, if it's responded to in a hostile way, then the feeling that can come across is, hey, I'm reaching out to you with care, and the response I'm getting back from you is hostility. Now, that person might not end up saying that. They might just internally start responding differently. All the while, this other person doesn't realize that they are missing and and responding hostilely toward a bid for connection. And so this goes both ways. I'm sure that there are situations in which she was sending bids for connection and that was going straight over his head. And so what happens is both parties are sending these bids for connection, assuming that they are being received by the other person. They're not being received. And then we have both people feeling a lack of care. And over the course of a relationship, that can be really deeply painful. This happens in parent-child relationships too, where a child will ask parent to play or ask, mom, look at this, mom, I want you to see this, mom, are you watching? And the parent doesn't necessarily see that as a bid for connection, doesn't necessarily see the child requesting care or offering care. And so it's not received. And eventually, when we keep sending signals out over and over and over, and they're not received or respond to, we realize that there's no point in sending the signals, and then we stop sending them. And that's where relationships really begin to break down. So we want to keep in mind that different things mean different things to different people. And just like that hand signal in our culture means everything's okay, in another culture, it might mean something really rude. And the same thing goes for really simple sayings like, I'm fine, or don't worry about it, or so many different things. So many different things that you think, oh, I know exactly what that means. You don't. You know what it means to you, but you don't know what it means to another person. And so it's really important to check in with each other, like what we're hearing the other person say. What did you mean when you said such and such? How were you wanting me to feel when you said such and such? What were you hoping? What are you hoping? How are you hoping I respond to such and such that you said? And really starting to get curious about the different dialects and the messages that we're missing as a result of us speaking different dialects. So that's really what I wanted to talk about tonight. There's so much more that I could say about that, but really at the end of the day, it's so important to maintain your level of, maintain a sense of curiosity, especially when it comes to communicating with somebody who didn't grow up in the same family as you. So it can be easier when you're talking to a sibling, for example, because oftentimes you have the same, you grew up with the same dialect. It's not always true, but you can make some of those assumptions more easily in a sibling type relationship than you can with like a partner or a friend or even a child, right? Because your child is growing up in a very different environment than you grew up in. And so the subtext is different. And oftentimes what I see, especially when I'm working with couples, is that people are responding to the hurt of the subtext of what their partner is saying, but then they're responding to the surface level when they're answering. So they're receiving the subtext of what's being said, but then they're responding they're responding to the subtext of what's being said rather than the message that's being sent. So we want to get really curious, and we want to get in the habit of checking in with the other person. What did you mean when you said such and such? What did you hear me say when I said such and such? How did it feel when you heard me? How did it feel when you heard me say such and such? What are you understanding about this? And get in the habit of just checking in with the other person, because so much of the time we're missing what's being said. And when we're talking actually about the same thing, the conversation goes so much better. So after I pointed out, after I asked her, hey, could you hear the care in that statement? And then I told her how I heard that statement and checked in with him. Hey, did you mean it like this? Or did you mean it like this? It was really obvious that he meant it in the way that I understood it as the third party who is listening for care in the interaction. She kind of had this aha moment of, wow, I totally didn't hear that. That completely went over my head. And I wonder how many times that's happening in the course of one conversation, let alone in the course of, a decades-long relationship. So It's really important to maintain our sense of curiosity, and it's really important to check in. So if those are the only things that you remember from this live, you will be better off than probably so many people. But like I said, I go live every single week at Mondays, 5:30 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. And so mark your calendars, put your questions in the comments. I don't even actually have time to check the comments right now because I am headed off on a trip. So I will see you soon. Take care of yourselves. And if you are ready to get to the next level in your relationships, if you want to get to the next level in your relationship with kids or with your partner, or even if in your relationship to yourself, please let me know. Reach out to either Christina, Tiara, or myself in the group, and we can look at seeing if working together would be, if we would be a good fit for working together, and which one of our programs might be a good fit for you. It's incredible. It's incredible what can happen in relationships when you have more skills, when you're practicing better skills, and when you're learning to speak the same language. All right. Well, I will talk to you soon, and take care. All right. Bye-bye.